Am I the a-hole for getting my colleague in trouble for calling me his work wife? Some time ago, I, 29 female, was assigned by my European-based employer to work on a project at our US location. Part of my assignment was training a new hire within my special area of expertise. This new guy is about 10 years older than me and hired for a management position. However, he is in no way my superior, as I take on more of a consulting role with the local team. I noticed straight away that he is very outgoing and sociable, joking around a lot with his colleagues. Quite different from the man I am used to, as I come from a northeastern European country where the male stereotype can only be described as silent. He immediately took an interest in me and started jokingly flirting and complimenting my looks. This made me uncomfortable since we are both married, and I felt it was very inappropriate. It also made me feel as if he did not respect me professionally, when comments like, "You look so cute when you're serious," would interrupt my training sessions with him. The assignment itself was a big deal to me, and I wanted nothing more than to exceed expectations, which is why I was reluctant to bring this up and create drama. I tried ignoring his behavior, but the last straw for me was when he started calling me his work wife openly in the office. I understand that this term is used in a joking manner in US office culture, but we absolutely do not have anything similar in my home country. And if word were to get around back home about this, I would have to explain to my husband why some random man decided to call me his wife. To avoid this, I decided I needed to put an end to the casual flirting and jokes from this man. I sat him down one-on-one and told him in short that he had to stop calling me his work wife. He seemed to understand, but I may have been too nice or vague in my approach toward him because he acted no differently in the following days. This made me frustrated, as I felt I now had to either go to my and his boss and risk this reflecting badly on my assignment or risk conflict in my marriage. I ultimately decided that my marriage was more important than my job and told my boss about my issue. Luckily, my boss took me seriously and told me that he would handle it and to stop worrying about it. I am not sure what went down after this, but the flirting and the compliments from my colleague abruptly stopped. I was relieved, but I also felt that my colleague acted very cold toward me after this happened. I still successfully finished my training sessions with him and the assignment and relocated back home. Now, in retrospect, I am wondering if I overreacted due to the cultural differences between the US and my home country. Maybe what my colleague was doing was just normal social interaction, and I acted like a complete a-hole by getting him into trouble with our boss for mere joking. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He was acting unprofessional as hell. Not just unprofessional. I think this qualifies as sexual harassment. OP, of course he was going to act cold. That's a big part of how these a-holes get away with their crap for so long. You behaved nothing but professionally, and here you are wondering if you went too far by asking to be treated like a professional. You did not. And you've made it easier for the next person he tries this with to tell him to get lost. Yeah, once she told him that his flirting jokes were making her uncomfortable and were unwelcome, then he kept doing it. That removes any ambiguity about sexual harassment. Not the a-hole. Terms like work wife are and can be uncomfortable. I am not European or American, but I would be uncomfortable with a man calling me his work wife, even if he and I were friendly. You did nothing wrong. In fact, you did what you could in the right way. You spoke to him in person first. Then, when that didn't change his behavior, it definitely became harassment on his part. So you took it up the chain to your boss, who dealt with it. I'm American. I work in an office-type situation, and I promise you, anytime somebody even mutters the word work husband or work wife, HR is on their ass. That is a very slippery slope to harassment for a lot of people, and HR does not like it. He probably got told if he did it again, he'd lose his job, because it's easier to replace one employee than pay out a lawsuit. Next story. Am I the a-hole for sending my brother a $12,000 bill after he borrowed my car and wrecked it on a joyride? I, 28 female, have been saving for years to buy my dream car, a fully restored 1967 Mustang. I finally bought it 8 months ago, and it's basically my baby. I barely even drive it because I want to keep it pristine. Last weekend, my younger brother, 24 male, came to visit. He's always been the fun sibling, life of the party, always pulling stunts. I love him, but he's impulsive and doesn't think things through. I went to bed early Friday night because I had work the next morning. When I woke up, my car was gone. I called him, and he laughed and said, "Relax, I just took it for a spin." Well, turns out that spin involved racing some of his friends down a back road. He lost control, went into a ditch, and smashed the entire front end. The repair estimate came back at just over $12,000. Insurance won't cover it because he wasn't an authorized driver. I told him he had to pay for the repairs. He said he doesn't have that kind of money and that it was just a stupid mistake. My parents are begging me not to make him pay because he's struggling financially and family comes first. I didn't listen. I had a lawyer draft a formal repayment agreement, and now my brother is furious. He says I'm ruining his life over a car, and my family is calling me heartless. I told them that if he'd owned up immediately and offered anything toward fixing it, I might have let it slide. But the fact he stole it, wrecked it, and laughed about it? No. So now there's a huge rift in the family. My parents say I'm overreacting. My brother says he's cutting contact. And I'm sitting here wondering if maybe I really am being petty. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your brother didn't just make a mistake. He stole your car, drove recklessly, destroyed it, and then laughed about it. The $12,000 bill is the direct consequence of his choices, not you being heartless. Family doesn't mean enabling someone's irresponsibility. If anything, holding him accountable might be the only way he learns. Exactly this. Thank you. I think what's frustrating me the most is how my family is framing this like I'm punishing him for just a mistake, when in reality, it was theft, reckless driving, and zero remorse. If I'd done something like that to his property, I'd fully expect to pay for it. I'm not trying to ruin his life, but I refuse to let him think there are no consequences. He's lucky you didn't get him on grand theft. I know I'd be going scorched earth on him if I was in your shoes. Exactly. If I wanted to, I could have gone the grand theft route, but I figured getting my $12,000 back was the priority. Honestly, he's getting off light. So by fun sibling, you mean the sibling that never faced consequences? Not the a-hole. It's time he dealt with the repercussions of his actions. Yup, he's always been the fun one, because everyone else ends up cleaning up his messes. Honestly, this is the first time he's actually had to deal with the real consequences of something he's done, and you'd think I'd committed the crime with how my family's reacting. Not the a-hole. I'd sue him for the damages and press charges for theft. That's why I went ahead with a lawsuit. The car repairs were $12,000, and there was no way I was going to just eat that cost because of his fun prank. Pressing charges definitely crossed my mind too, but I figured getting the money back was the priority, for now. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to fund my parents' retirement for the rest of their lives? Since I was 18, my retired elderly parents, in their 70s now, had been living with me, 32 female, up until 6 years ago when I met my partner. During this time, and even after I moved in with him, I had funded my parents' lives, bills, rent, food, etc. My brothers, 38 and 42, who are both married and living with their own families, have helped a little with medicine and occasional cab rides to the doctor. But that's about it. My parents have nothing saved, have had a history of failed businesses, and sold their house to fund more of those. My dad refused to find a job through all of this because he insisted he was going to be a businessman, despite having absolutely no knowledge of how to run one. Meanwhile, the three of us, his kids, quit school to work and feed ourselves. Fast forward to the present day. I have a newborn and am unemployed, and I've told them that's it. I've got nothing to give. They were very understanding but would still call every 2 weeks and hint at needing cash. We are barely staying afloat ourselves with a single-income household, and I'm honestly sick of it all. A relative of theirs had taken them in and lent them money to help them get back on their feet, which they sank into another pyramid scheme they insisted was a tourism agency startup. They are convinced it will be a while before they make money from it, as they've been completely brainwashed into believing this. Now the relative is asking them to move out. I'm at a loss. I've finally let go of the guilt and come to the conclusion that their life decisions, refusing to save, refusing to sort out their retirement, refusing to look for work after selling their business decades ago, selling their house and squandering that money on more startups, instead of funding our schooling or buying another home when they were young, have brought them to this. They've been coasting on the generosity of friends and family to survive. I often get calls asking how I am and if I've found work yet, disguised as concern, that almost always conclude with an unsubtle hint at their financial woes. When I bring up all of the above and the cause of their problems, I get the whole, "What do you want us to do now? Roll over and die?" They constantly talk badly about my siblings who don't call anymore and don't help, when in reality, my siblings have families too. They have bills, each has 2 to 3 kids, and can barely hold down a job themselves. They own homes paid for by their spouses, with just enough space for them and their kids, whereas I am renting far away. Now that I'm a parent myself, it's clearer to me why my siblings have kept their distance. I can't imagine putting my son through this and being this much of a burden and an embarrassment to him. I'm frustrated and also embarrassed. While I'm trying to move on with my life and bury the childhood trauma that came with all of this, it feels like they're still stuck and trying to drag me down. Is that selfish? And am I the a-hole for having no plans to go back to funding their lives? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You need to build up your own emergency fund. They could have made better choices, like buying a camper and becoming camp hosts at a campground for free boarding. They have options. You're not that option any longer. I'd start limiting your conversations with them. The thing is, my grandaunt practically gave them land in the countryside that belongs to the family to turn into a campground. They then convinced a friend to invest in it by putting down money, 10 grand, for a cabin with basic facilities. The house sat vacant and unfinished, and the friend went unpaid because they refused to move there, saying it was too far from the city. I feel so sorry for all the people left in the wake of these poor decisions. When they ask if you found a job, ask them the same. Refer to their companies as what they are, pyramid schemes, and they'll get mad. Sometimes the trash just takes itself out. I have been killing myself trying to help my mom, only to see her not just squander any money she gets, but also turn it into debt with those pay-in-4 installment deals. I resent her so much I can't even deal with knowing her anymore. I'm moving away, and whatever happens to her is her own business. Let them figure it out. They don't get to consume your life after they threw their security away with both hands. Yes, especially since life was so much easier back then. They lived through the best eras post-war and got to own 3 homes outright before they were even 40. This was years before I was born. They had all the chances to do what they wanted with their lives, and they just wasted it. Ugh. Yeah, it is ridiculous. I can't even understand how people make these choices. When COVID hit, I told my mom we needed to do something about her retirement since she was turning 50. I got back into college and said we could live together, save on bills, and then I could graduate and be in a position to help her. Instead, she refused to find a job after running out of unemployment, got jealous of me going to college, and sabotaged me. I was so stressed from needing to cover everything that I paused at college again while I paid for everything. And I could not let myself abandon her. Now it's been 5 years, and I've realized there is no scenario where she will not court poverty. Some people are users, and they take advantage of your goodwill. I'm saving to move now, and good riddance. She better figure it out. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my future mother-in-law she can't move into our house just for a few months after the wedding? So I, 28 female, am getting married to my fiancé, 30 male, in October. We bought a small 2-bedroom house last year, nothing fancy, but it's ours, and we've been slowly fixing it up together. It's been a labor of love, and we're both really proud of the fact that we managed to buy our first home before getting married. Last week, my future mother-in-law, 58 female, casually dropped a, by the way, bomb on me over coffee. She said she plans on selling her condo right after the wedding and moving in with us, just for a few months, while she figures things out. Her reasons? It'll save me money for my next place. It'll be nice for you to have help around the house. I'm family now, so it just makes sense. The problem is, This is not some spacious house with extra bedrooms and a finished basement. We have 2 rooms, ours and a small office or guest room that I use to work from home 3 days a week. That guest room isn't really extra space. It's my workspace. If she moved in, I'd have nowhere to work without sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop and noise-canceling headphones. It's not just the space issue. My future mother-in-law is the type who can't help but reorganize things that aren't hers. She's the kind of person who will rearrange my kitchen because it makes more sense her way and comment on how I fold towels or how often I vacuum. She also has opinions on everything. From what groceries I buy to how we decorate, she has unfiltered commentary. And when she says a few months, I know from experience that means until you make me leave. She once stayed with my fiancé for just a couple of weeks when he was in his old apartment, and it turned into nearly 6 months before he finally had to tell her she couldn't keep living there. When she brought it up, I told her, politely at first, that while we love her, we need to start our marriage as just the 2 of us. I explained that we need to settle into our own routine without extra people in the house, especially since we don't have the space to accommodate her comfortably. She did not take it well. She went straight to my fiancé afterward and said I'm already trying to keep her son away from her and that I'm ungrateful for family. Now my fiancé is caught in the middle. He admits it would be stressful to have her here long term, but he also hates the idea of starting a fight with her before the wedding. Meanwhile, she's acting like it's already decided. She's even told some relatives that she'll be moving in with us after the honeymoon, as if my input doesn't matter. So, am I the a-hole for putting my foot down before this even happens? That witch is gonna check in and never check out. Nip that in the bud right now. That's what I'm scared of. She's gonna turn our guest room into her permanent residence and suddenly my house becomes her house. Not happening. Yeah, I wouldn't be getting married until the fiancé sorts out his mother. Good luck, sis, and congratulations, I guess. Right, I love him, but if he can't set boundaries with her now, I can only imagine what the rest of our marriage would look like. Boundaries aren't optional here. Exactly. Tell him straight up that this is a deal breaker. He either tells his mother no, clearly and firmly, or there will be no wedding.